In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It will be the result of your subconscious fears transformed to your conscious awareness. You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is going up, everybody? Welcome back to another We Are So Back Wednesday, another BG-Cast Wednesday live podcast. So, guys, I just want to say it seems like I got some new subscribers over on Rumble and YouTube. So I want to thank all of you guys for coming over and joining the BG-Cast family where we learn together, man. I say this constantly. I might have woke up in 2008. I might have been on this for going on 17, 18 years now. But that's the one thing, guys. I'll never tell you that I have it all figured out. I never will, because I'm still learning just as much as you all are. So I want to thank you for joining us tonight, man. We got a real special episode, but real quick, I have an announcement to make. So I have a sponsor now. Yes, I actually have a sponsor, and I want to just do a quick little ad for my sponsor, and they are Divine Creation Gifts, and we're going to look at the webpage for a second, get to know them a little bit. So this episode is sponsored by Divine Creation Gifts, your sacred space for carefully curated crystals, spiritual tools, handmade body products, and high vibe creations to support your awakening journey. Discover sacred treasures of your mind, body, and soul. Visit divinecreationgifts.com and step into the magic. So I want to just bring up the webpage real quick for everybody to see. It's actually really awesome. They got a lot of really cool things, man. So like if you are looking for crystals, if you are looking for natural tinctures, they got an apothecary, they got tools and supplies, they got crystals and jewelry, apparel and merch for the website too. So yes, go ahead. They're just starting off. And, give them a look, man. So this is a homegrown business, you guys, so like, and that's what I like to support, because we're trying to bring back a true free market here. And we are trying to spread the word about real natural homegrown stuff, guys. And that's where it's at, because that's where the revolution starts. We put our foot forward and we start doing our own thing. We start cultivating that energy. We give something an energetic flow, and then that builds energy. And this is what we're going to do, guys. So this is how it is done in the manifestation world. We've talked about this a lot on my show. So give some support to Divine Creations for me. But nonetheless, I'm going to say this, man. I've really been looking forward to this guest. We have been chatting for a while. Him and I are very much on a similar mentality. When it comes to how we do things here, we're about discipline, we're about training, we're about cultivating our internal alchemy, our energy flow. So let me just give a little bit of an introduction. So his name is Doyen, and he is a bioelectromagnetic stimulation therapist, leptokinetic somatic release analyst, author, and aspiring neuropsychology quantum bio student. In his role as the founder of Leptokinetic therapy, he has devoted his life to helping others become self-empowered and find healing in their lives. For the past 10 years, his passion has been centered around complementary and alternative medicine, alongside my exploration of his exploration of mind-body medicine. Thanks to the power of technology, the internet, and video chat, he has connected with individuals globally from all walks of life remotely via Zoom since 2014. Through his work, he has witnessed the remarkable healing benefits that remote leptokinetic therapy can facilitate for others, particularly in its capacity to strengthen the mind-body connection and its relation to facilitate somatic releasing. So nonetheless, guys, I've really got to bring this dude on. I am so excited to chat with him. Let's bring Doyen to the stage, guys. What is up, man? How's it going?
Not a whole lot. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you, fam.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now. I really have, because like I said, I was talking with you before we started the show. you and I are on a very similar mindset to how we work here, the things that we do, as far as understanding the correlation between the physical and the energetic, actually taking the power into our own hands to heal ourselves and others, man. And that's one of the biggest power moves that we can even do at this point in time, in my opinion. And I just want to ask you this question first, man, because this is your first time on the show. And of course, we all want to get to know you here just a little bit. So if you don't mind diving into it, you can abbreviate it. Let's talk about your awakening story, man. Let's talk about what was there a burning bush moment, or was there many burning bush moments? There's always sometimes those that kind of pushed you forward into understanding there's more to this existence than meets the eye, and what kind of led you into the path of leptokinesis as well. So if you don't mind, man, just enlightening everybody so we can get to know you a little bit, that would be awesome.
This is a question I get a lot, and it's kind of funny to me. It's like I say this with like as much like humility as possible, but it's like I was kind of just born this way. You know what I mean? I was very fortunate enough to have I'm Jamaican, Filipino, German, English, Scottish, Spanish, Swedish, a whole bunch of things. But like growing up in a Jamaican household on one side, a Filipino household on another side, I was exposed to a lot of spiritual, supernatural phenomena, from dinner table conversations about ghosts and entities and things like that, to me waking up at 3 a.m, to my grandma speaking in tongues, like casting entities out of the house. So like I've kind of always been exposed to this like realm. I am also like intellectually gifted, like gate program kid, you know what I mean? Like I have always kind of been in between. Shit. Yeah, I've always been in between kind of like both realms. I've always like I have retained memories from like 1 year old. You know what I mean? Like I've been dreaming since I can remember. You know what I mean? I've experienced my own weird kind of like supernatural or like poltergeist kind of activity, sleep paralysis, all those kinds of things like throughout childhood. You know what I mean? But to kind of be more succinct here, in terms of like getting on this path, I went through like a very dark period. I did deal with like a lot of childhood trauma and stuff like that. Ended up moving from Maryland to Virginia actually when I was in like 4th grade. And I think that within itself was an extremely traumatic just kind of experience, just because it was just like me, my mom, and my stepdad. We completely moved away like from my whole, like isolated from the whole rest of my family. And so and not to mention, so like my mom lives right across the street from the first battle of the Civil War.
Okay. I know
so there was a lot of
exactly what you're talking about.
Right off 29.
Yep.
Right near Manassas going into Gainesville, going into Bristow, that kind of area. And so like there was a lot of like, again, energy imbued into the land from all the violence and, you know what I mean, just kind of all the war and stuff like that. And so like I certainly saw some weird stuff out there. But again, a lot of trauma growing up at that point in my life. And, I would say like I was like atheist, even like a little bit, bro, like dark, man, like a little dark, like going into like kind of like a weird gothic and punk stage and stuff like that. And also experiencing like weird stuff, like music turning on by itself, things like that. And I ended up, like when I got into high school, I would probably say because of psychedelics. I started doing psychedelics fairly young, actually, in middle school. But as I got older into high school, it really helped me kind of process, you know what I mean, like a lot of the trauma that I went through and stuff like that, and gave me like a different appreciation and outlook on life and things like that. And long story short, what ended up happening was I had a girlfriend at the time, and she had a book on, it was like a woman's book for Reiki or something like that. And I was like, wow. So like I was aware of like energy movement and stuff like that. Again, like up until this point, I've still been having dreams, dealing with paranormal experiences the whole entire time, lots of meditating. And I ended up getting kicked out of high school my junior year, and I ended up moving back to Maryland my junior year of high school. And I happened to buy a book. Even though like I didn't like school or really pay attention, like I was always self-educating, always like learning about stuff, you know what I mean? And I picked up a book called Natural Cures by Kevin Trudeau. And he pretty much like lays it out like how the pharmaceutical industry works, and how it's all a for-profit business, just like anything within our system really is. But it's a shame that the medical industry is. And so I basically started learning that there's a lot of natural cures for everything really. And I didn't understand still like what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something with my hands and kind of like help people heal like within this like natural way, but I still didn't kind of know exactly what I wanted to do. Like I was like briefly interested in Reiki, like I was learning about it, stuff like that. So long story short, again, I end up, I'm gonna just keep it a bean with you. I'm gonna just keep it 100. I ended up meeting this girl on Facebook, right? I slid into her DMs. I thought she was pretty, you know what I'm saying? And we ended up talking for like hours all night about aliens, about spirituality, about energy, about everything, right? And she's just like, you need to start setting your intention. You need to start praying, is what she literally said to me. You start praying. And so I did. And the next day, my dad calls me, and I didn't talk to my dad in like years. And he's like, yo, I'm opening a Jamaican restaurant in off U Street in DC. He's like, I want you to assistant manage it. You can go move in with your uncle. I've been a skateboarder for 30 years at this point. It's every skateboarder's dream to live in the city. You know what I mean? So it was like a dream come true the next day. And I was like, whoa. And then the girl disappeared. I didn't talk to her for like a week. And so she randomly, like a week later, she hits me back up. She's like, hey, sorry, I went on like a spiritual retreat. She's like, I'm half Native American, and I went on to like the native lands, and just pretty much just like my main intention was to like commune with spirit or whatever. And she was just like, I did, and you were brought up, and they were just saying that like you have a very bright aura or something like that. Started telling me all this crazy stuff, like telling me things psychically that she couldn't know about me. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God. And that's kind of like what started this like unfurling of this process. And so when I started working in DC, I got more interested in doing like Reiki. And it just so happened that ever since we opened, a Reiki master was coming in at least once a week. I didn't know who he was yet, right? In fact, 2 Reiki masters were coming in all the time. But one of our employees was like, hey, like Arthur's a Reiki master. Like, you should go learn from him or whatever, right? So we ended up opening a second location in Adams Morgan. And it was like, nice. Yeah, it was like a slow Christmas, like a slow December month. You know what I mean? Like foot traffic, obviously, in the city gets very slow when it's wintertime, And I'm just like watching the shop by myself. I'm just there by myself. And I'm about to leave because that's how slow it is. I'm about to just clock out. And so as I'm like leaving, this dude walks in. So it's like this, almost like this perfect synchronized kind of like alignment of like this threshold. And I end up, like letting him come in and serving him and talking to him. And he's kind of just like, hey, like, I'm exhausted. I just finished the energy treatment. I was like, what, like Reiki? He was like, yeah. He's like, how do you know about that? I was like, brother, I aspire to learn it. And he goes, boom, just started like dropping all this stuff on me, like just kind of like how the nice. Native American girl did, just started psychically dropping all this stuff on me, like about how he sensed these things about me and like this, that, and the third. And there's one point in the conversation where I'm like, to be on this path, I was like 20 at the time. I was like, to be on this path at this age, I was like, I certainly feel like I have an old soul. And he's like a 50-year-old, like 6'5" black dude. And he just like looks at me directly into my soul and in his deep baritone voice. And he's like, or this could be your destiny. And I was like, oh, I just like nice. Knew at that point that this was something I was supposed to pursue. And he actually wanted to take me under his wing. But he wasn't meant to be my teacher. He was just the catalyst on the journey. And we end up like closing the restaurant down due to like partner disagreements and stuff like that. So like I moved from DC back to Maryland, and I end up getting my I'm gonna just be real. I end up getting my first baby mama pregnant. And so like time is of the essence at that point. You know what I mean? Like there's a sense of like, oh God, like, like I have limited time. Like I need to go to some type of schooling or something like that. So like I end up finding a job or whatever. And one day I'm walking down Main Street in Laurel, Maryland. Just like walking down Main Street. I've walked down it a million times. And I get to this one spot and I just look to the side and I see an acupuncture studio. And I'm like, no way. I was like, I've never seen this here before. And I look into the window next to it. and there's a little Reiki sign. I said, no way, no way. So I go inside and I talk to who would become my teacher for like 2 hours. He gives me a free session. I feel so much during the session and end up taking classes from him. And the classes that I took was a 200-hour, 2-year master teacher medical Reiki training course, which is like unheard of in the energy healing world. You're lucky to get like a month or 2 or even 3 months. You know what I mean? I did straight just 8 months of just energy sensing alone. And then we started going into the transmission part. And that's how I kind of fell into this path. Real quick, I'll shut up after this. What happened after that? What happened after that, because I had to have 200 hours of practice outside of the table work we were doing in class. So I was working with people so much. And what started to happen was I would be working on them. Like I might like place my hand on their solar plexus chakra or something like that. And I'm like sending energy to it. And I'm like, okay, like what's in the solar plexus chakra? Is it like anxiety or insecurity or like overanalyzation? And then I would get to a specific key word. And all of a sudden, like I could feel a palpitation. I could feel like some type of activity occurring under my hand when I would hit that specific resonance or disharmonic resonance that was in their body. And so that ended up developing into like, I would just sometimes work on some people and they would just erupt, start shaking, convulsing, twitching, crying, having all these crazy responses. And I asked my teacher, I was like, dude, what is this? I was like, this is like some X-Men shit. I was like, this feels supernatural. And he's like, oh, it's just like energy moving through their body, which he wasn't wrong, but that was not a sufficient enough answer for me because I would get some people to move without barely even trying. And then some people, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get them to budge. And so that created like this like burning desire within me to understand the process. And I ended up developing a process that is repeatable. I had a sample size of N equals 52 last year. And out of those 52 people, 92% of them experienced involuntary stimulus.
Oh my goodness, dude. Like this is awesome because number one, you're taking me down a little bit of a trip down memory lane. Especially talking about all these areas, I'm very aware of Manassas Battlefield, dude. I have had experiences there myself. And like, I would honestly like to maybe in the future have you on to talk about some of those, definitely like on another episode, man, because I've seen some weird shit in Manassas Battlefield, man. And you are absolutely right. And that was actually one of the huge reasons why I left the DC area. me being so close, because I was in Centerville and I'm like right now, and I could feel that energy, bro. There was a lot of death, there was a lot of decimation there. A couple things we already got questions from the audience, but a couple things. You brought up GATE program. I am also a GATE program kid. There's a lot of other GATE program kids here too. And that is a egg that I have been cracking open for a long time. There's some very interesting stuff. I'll just do a TLDR. A lot of us have been monitored from a very young age, and that is where they try to loop it in, snatch us up, get us to do what they wanted us to do. I ended up, I remember the hearing tests with the frequencies, the visuals. Yep. They would always give me this weird fruit concoction to fucking drink beforehand too and shit, man. Like, and tanagrams. I'm telling you, dude, no, I could go. We're definitely going to have to do another show after this, man. I almost heard a lot of my story in you too, dude. I was a skater kid for many, many years. I got kicked out of high school my junior year, and I came to school. I came to school on MDMA. That's a different story, but no, man, and I also tried psychedelics at a very young age, dude. I'm just hearing a lot of me and you, dude, and that's really cool, and that just kind of lends credence to the fact. Mike muted. You and I are very similar, man. So we got a couple questions from the audience. I'm gonna bring up real quick, if you don't mind answering them real fast.
Sure.
Let me pull them up real quick. So at first, we got from Dom Rogers at March 4th Productions. Has he ever had any multidimensional consciousness experiences? He seems very familiar.
I've had quite a few. Shall I tell my most powerful experience?
Let's get into it, man. Let's get into it.
One of the greatest stories ever told. Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to. My girlfriend's been like, you gotta stop making that noise when you're breathing. I'm like, I'm regulating my nervous system, okay? Like, this is healthy.
No, you're all good, dude. I'm having a great time, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But so, okay, so around similar. So like while I'm in DC and stuff like that, right? Like while I'm going through that whole process, I pick up the book, The Spirit Molecule, and I start learning about DMT and shit. And I was like, dude, how am I ever going to get my hands on this? I was like, what? And one day my homegirl hits me up out of nowhere. She's like, yo, come over. Like my boyfriend's got some DMT. We're allowed to talk about all this, right?
Yeah. Have at it, dude.
Okay.
Have at, we're on Rumble, and YouTube can fuck off as far as I'm concerned.
All right, just making sure.
Yeah.
So I get to her house or whatever, and her boyfriend's they're like festival kids. They're like, what do you call those people?
Festival kids.
Wooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like whooped out, and they sell me like a fat dose, you know what I mean, for real cheap. They get it all prepared for me and stuff like that. And I go to smoke it, and I hit it like 3 or 4 times, like until like my body just goes, until like I completely like just disassociate. Like I can't like move my arms anymore or anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember looking at the smoke, and the smoke being like so crisp, like looking like 4D, like is the best way I can describe it. And then I remember looking at like, they actually were like similar to like these wooden panels here. Like I remember like looking back at the wall, but now there's like a neon grid like suspended on the wall, and I'm like, oh, the grid of entanglement. Like I just like somehow just knew that, you know what I mean? And I then start to like see, remember those Windows 98 screensavers, dude, that would like be like congruent shapes that would like bounce off and forth of like the window? I started to see stuff like that. And something inside of me was like, close your eyes and breathe, close your eyes and breathe. And so I did. And I'm like, I have my eyes closed and I'm still seeing the same stuff. But now the patterns are becoming more complex geometries. They're now becoming colors of the color spectrum that I've never seen before. And all of a sudden I start to hear like a crescendo, like a this ringing noise get increasingly loud until it's just like, and I was like, I like ripped through like some space-time continuum or something like that. And I was in like a golden place, and the same colors that I'm seeing are like spiraling, and the shapes are like spiraling through this like golden brick, spiraling up these like golden pillars. It looked like an ancient Egypt or an ancient Rome. Like that's what the architecture looked like. And I saw this being gliding down a corridor, and it stopped because it felt me, and I knew that's why it's like it was all telepathic. Like I sensed it, and it came over to me and greeted me in such joy and compassion and unconditional love that could never be, it's not something that could ever be verbalized. It's just a feeling. And this thing was composed of nothing but light and energy. Its eyes were, it wasn't scary, but like when I retell the story, people were like, oh my God, its eyes were black. Like it had, like, it was like, its eyes were black as the deepest vectors of fucking space. And it was gold. Like its form was just like pure gold. And then 2 more came over to me, and one was more significant than the other 2. He had like what looked like a turban, or like what like a pharaoh would wear. Like he had like some type of like vertical hat on, and he took what looked like a stick or a wand or something and put it to my third eye, and all this light colored energy was just like just like started shooting out of my third eye, and I'm just like and then zoom, I was like back in my body, and I'm like, my lips are all blue and shit. I'm like shaking in the corner. I started crying, just pure tears of joy, because it was no longer something I had read. It was no longer someone else's experience. There was no longer a doubt within my mind that there is so much more beyond this realm.
Holy shit, man. I got to tell you, the one thing, because I understand it, because I've been in those states before. When you said like just this feeling, you can't describe it in words, this feeling of like this all-encompassing love. I know exactly what you're talking about, dude. And it is when we have experiences like that, man. And this is the human language just breaks down. It's just there's no, you could try to use words, but it's flat. Like it doesn't even do the whole story justice, or what you experience justice, man. So totally, I've been there. And then the last question we have for now is from the Earth Grid Rescue Mission. I've been told I'm a really strong energy healer, but I've had no formal training. How can someone become proficient if they can't commit to an expensive program? Can you self-teach?
You can self-teach. I'm again, like, I'm a very firm believer in formal training, just because like there are things that you might like have. I don't want to say like it leaves holes in your game. Like, for example, a part of my process has a lot to do with the nervous system. I basically reverse engineered the bioelectrical system to get this process to happen to people. As a result of that, I became very proficient in neurology, biochemistry, things like that. But when I went to college and I started taking, I took like a Harvard class at just an intro to neuro, and I was getting my ass whooped. Like I was like, it made me realize like how much I didn't know. But it's certainly possible. What I would say is, like, I mean, I don't even know if I want to say that. I mean, like, ChatGPT can certainly like formulate some stuff and kind of like give you some directions, but X that. Don't even listen to that. Get books on different types of forms of energy healing, prana healing, Reiki, just other forms. You can get my book. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of literature that you can read now at this point. And then just practice. Just practice. One thing my teacher used to always say is that this is but a guideline. This is what I tell my students as well. What I teach, it's just a guideline. These things are just stepping stones. Like, you are going to learn more than you could ever imagine by just doing it, like by just like practicing it on other people. There is a treasure trove worth of information in people that you cannot get in any book.
I would agree with that completely, man. And I definitely got to say, I have your link tree in both the Rumble and the YouTube description. So if you guys do want to check out his book, yes, go hit up his link tree. Alrighty, man. I got to say, dude, let's get down into it. I actually have an image you posted too. I want to bring up here a little bit of the cells in the electromagnetic field and stuff, because I found that profoundly fascinating. But let's dive into leptokinesis, man, because this is something that profoundly fascinates me. I mean, as a Kundalini yoga practitioner, somebody who understands the subtle body system and how it works with our energetic flow, and how if it gets blocked, honestly, man, I think just like you, I'm a huge believer that a lot of illnesses are energetic things. And that they have an energetic place that manifests into the physical and causes these physical ailments. So let's dive into leptokinesis, man. Let's get everybody up to speed on what it is and your practice and how you practice it yourself.
All right. So leptokinesis is essentially a psychokinetic ability that allows the user to manipulate matter on like the atomic, molecular, and cellular level. It's a much more, it's similar to telekinesis in the sense that it moves objects, but the object is the person. It's a human that's being kinetically influenced. This is a lot. So
dive in as much as you can, man. We are ready.
While I have this in my mind, you're kind of touching on how a lot of things emanate energetically before they do physically. And like, while I do follow that and do know that that is true, it goes back to kind of what we were talking about briefly earlier. Like, the physical body is even more important in my opinion, because if the physical body is unable to transduce subtle information into actual electrochemical signals, then the energy essentially remains inert, or it doesn't release, or it doesn't regulate. I don't want to say it doesn't regulate. It just sticks less. The energy is not going all the way down to the cells to actually recrystallize, reorganize the geometry of those particles. And so what ended up happening to me, like I was telling you, is, like, I was just like perplexed. I was like, how am I moving people with my mind? like how are people responding? How are people responding to my thoughts? Like, how is that actually creating like an involuntary localized switch response, or a neurogenic tremor, or, again, these involuntary behaviors referred to as somatic releases that happen. Also, while we're talking about a somatic release is the built-in mechanism, neurological mechanism that discharges excess tension and stress and frozen energy from the musculoskeletal system. When you deal with chronic stress or a traumatic experience, your nervous system tends to get stuck in the sympathetic part of the nervous system, which is the fight, flight, freeze response. And so a lot of times people get stuck in the freeze response just based on like how our society is currently run. People don't realize like how big trauma is, in the sense of like, compacting small trauma. Like you could have a passive aggressive boss that you can't escape, and like they're just sending you like crazy emails, and like you have to respond to them, and like that puts you in the freeze response. You know what I mean? Because you have to deal with it. You can't run from it. You know what I mean? So that's basically like what I specialize in, regulating and helping people complete their stress responses. And a lot of times that manifests as the movement. But so again, what was kind of happening was when I was getting I would just look at some people and they would just start erupting. They would just start having these crazy responses. And then other people, no matter how hard I tried, I could not get them to budge. And so that led me to start like studying, like let me study like prana healing, like just general kind of, you know, some of the healing arts. And then I started to get into like really obscure ones like Cathara healing and Keylontic science and things like that. And there's a lot of like energetic mutations and like seal removals and stuff like that that are involved in those processes. And it did help me make my process a little bit more consistent, but it still wasn't consistent enough. And it wasn't until the day that I asked a very simple question: what makes the body move? And the answer is very simple. It's your nervous system. So when that happened, I basically like reverse engineered the bioelectrical system of the human body and how transduction is occurring. Transduction is the transformation of a tactile stimulus into an electrochemical signal. For example, when you put your hand over a flame, or you hurt yourself, whatever, that signal is being sent through your finger and into your brain and say, hey, this is hot, move your hand. You know what I mean? And so I basically reverse engineered that with how I'm sending the energy to their body. And what I came to find is that a lot of times, almost all of my work is at this point, hemisynchronization, bilateral stimulation, trilateral stimulation, brainstem modulation, mind-body connection enhancements. You know what I mean? There are, of course, other stuff in the glands that I work with as well. But that's how I was able to get this process to become the most consistent. And there was a point where like I was like, well, maybe it's not supposed to happen to everyone. You know what I mean? Like maybe like this again, maybe that's just this doesn't always happen. And one time I had a patient, I did like 7 sessions on them, and they had no movement. And I have these weird, like, intuitive nudges that happen to me during sessions where like something will just like pop into my brain and like be like, look at acetylcholine, or like this like obscure like neurotransmitter, like look at this thing, and I do it, and then something happens. And in this case, it was actually an emotion, and it was like the emotion of deprivation. And because they were like adopted and stuff like that, and so when I targeted that, boom, they erupted, cried, was just shaking. They became so sensitive to where I pre-record videos where I just sit there and send energy to the video, and they would watch the video and the video would make them react. So like people watch my videos that are on YouTube and they have similar reactions. It's like I'm able to freeze the energy and immortalize it essentially, and people can access it forever.
You're doing that energy transfer, man, because that's the thing. Like at least in my train of thought, the reason why you're doing this is you're projecting, because this is your passion, dude. And when we have a passion, there's that extra divine flair that comes out, man, that extra creative spark. And in my eyes, what I'm hearing is you are embedding a piece of yourself into this that's carrying that energy, your craft, your technique, that's enabling people to actually get the benefits from watching the video as opposed to having you directly work on the man, because you are passionate about this. I can tell, man, you know, and this is amazing though, because you know, you're talking about working on the glands, you're talking about, you know, working on even emotional, dude. Emotions are a form of energy as well too, and that's something that I try to hit hard with everybody, because I'm big into emotional transmutation and taking the energy from that emotion and transmuting it into your higher centers so they can be utilized for your creative purposes, for manifestation purposes, and to create the world that you wish to see. So dude, you're speaking my language real quick, because you touched on it a little bit, and this is something both you and I talked about at the beginning of the show. Let's talk about how physical health and energetic health correlate. Because if there's one thing, I know you and I were ready to go hard on this for a while, because this is something we both feel, and that is super important that people know. But let's dive into it, man. Let's get your thoughts, because one of the things I see in our community a lot of still is I see people who are not picking up on this. They're still in some ways not taking care of their physical health the way they should be, and it's impacting themselves on them on an energetic level. So let's get your take on this, man, because I've hit this nail so many times. Maybe if you have something to say too, it'll stick.
I mean, you know, like I was saying earlier, you can do all the fucking energy work you want to do, but if it's unable to actually reach your tissues, then it's kind of like it doesn't stick as well. You know what I mean? It has to go through this series of transduction where it's going through your merkabic fields, it's going through your morphogenetic field and those morphogenetic chakras, and then into, you know, different energy. The chakras are a wired system as well. They have they're called the axiatonal lines. They also have like a wired system. And so those are all translating messages between one another. And then it's just this whole complex sequence that is still going through the entire energy body until it goes into the physical body. But I have found again that like the physical body, if that energy isn't able to get into the physical body, then it's like you are working with energy and it's in your field. You might leave my office or something like that, or you might leave the yoga mat or the meditation mat, and then you go outside, you get shit on by a bird, or you know what I mean? Like you get splashed by water, you get a bad phone call, and that kind of just like neutralizes all the work that you just did because it still hasn't traveled into the tissues yet. Because a lot of times there's blockages in the tissues. And if you can most simply define what an energy blockage is, it's tension. That is the most simplest way you can define an energy blockage is tension. So one of the big three, my therapy can kind of be broken down into like three main processes: recharge, reconnective, and reactivation. So like the recharge is going to that's going to be further broken down into like two sub parts as well, where I work with a lot of detoxification support. I mean, we live in a world that is absolutely littered with toxins, from every element, to the air we breathe, to the lights outside, to the noises outside, to the shit in the food, to the shit in the water, to the shit in the jabs. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like these toxins are in everything. There's molds everywhere. You know what I mean? There's heavy metals everywhere. All of these things accumulate in your tissues. And what I have found is that they will bind to your plasma membranes, the outside of your cell. And that creates something called cellular impermeability. And that stops your cells from being able to perform their metabolic processes, i.e., move waste out, take in nutrients. And the more that waste accumulates, think about it like this. They're like little tiny singing bowls. All of your cells actually collectively make up your aura. And your nervous system actually makes up your chakras. It's not the other way around. Where you have the most nerve plexuses, where you have these complex networks of nerves, though that movement of electrical information, when it is coherent, it generates a strong toroidal field in that area. It generates the chakra cone. So that's why, again, I go from the bottom up, not the top down in terms of like energy work. But think of your cells again as little singing bowls. If they are bogged down with toxins, they will not reverberate. They will not oscillate properly. They will not hold the resonance that you're trying to imbue into your body.
Absolutely, man. And this is something I'm highly passionate about, because you are absolutely right. The food, the environment in the current state that it's in. One of my biggest things is, at least in my eyes, you know, we can discuss this. I feel like we're under a constant attack from our environment at this point in time. I mean, one of the biggest things about glyphosates that not a lot of people know, yes, they know it's bad. Yes, that it's not good for them, but it actually destroys your mitochondria. And you're talking about how our cells are singing bowls and how they have this. It's our resonance frequency. It's our aura. And what I find really interesting about what glyphosate does, and this is not a coincidence to me, man. This is not. Is it destroys the mitochondrial production of endogenous DMT.
Really?
And yes, it destroys. Yep, there's studies on it happening as well. I remember I was on X one time. There's a DMT guy on X, and he always likes to fact check people. And he was like, "Where's the study on this?" And I threw it at him, and he was like, "Oh my god!" Me and my colleagues are gonna read over this, and I'm like, I just saw that. Was that an orb?
You saw that? You saw that, right?
Yep, I just saw that.
You saw that, right?
Bro.
You saw that. I thought I was
I
tripping for a second.
No, you're not tripping.
I don't think, like, I was like, is that a bug? But I don't see one. That was kind of weird a little bit.
Yo, dude. This is a divinely guided conversation. We're just going to say that. This is a divinely, but no, exactly, man. And it is. And that's why, at least in my eyes, taking the step with your physical health and eliminating these toxins. And what is the best detoxifier there is? Moving. You know what I mean? Moving your body. And that's one of the best. I know there's other great ones too. Don't get me wrong. But moving your body, man. And that's one of the best. And like you were talking about, it's even crazy because I did an episode on the subtle body, man. And you're going to get a kick of this because you're going to laugh because I had an NIH study that was going over the meridian points in the meridian system. And it was a study on if the meridian system actually exists. So they had all of the photos of the meridian points. They were showing it in the fascia of the muscle, and they were showing yes, dude. I'll have to pull this up. I'll have to send it to you, dude. I have it back on that episode.
There was also a study that they did, and I mean, like, it might have been like they're in the academic community, it's like the study's a little frowned upon because I don't know if it was done by like North Korea or some shit. It was done by like Korea back in like the 50s or some shit like that, and like they're saying like that it was kind of like a biased study or something like that. But what they were able to identify was within the skin had they were like measuring the skin with like some type of electro type of sensor or something like that. And they found that there were certain points on the skin that had less electrical resistance, meaning that electricity can go in there easily. And it lined up with all the meridians. The acupuncture points are also directly correlated with nerve terminal, like the end, there's like these end points, a lot of end points of nerves that are directly connected to those acupuncture points as well. So there's absolutely like a physical correlation to all of this stuff.
Oh,
movement is healing. Like I can't stress that enough. I cannot.
Dude, and I was going to tell you the really funny part about this study, dude, was even though they showed so much evidence for it existing, like, right, they had the autopsy of this person, they're showing all of the different they even show, so there's like you were saying, at these points where there's not a lot of electrical resistance, I'm lining them up to the actual meridian points, so that showed how it went through the fascia. And it was like a thinner layer of fascia, and it reached down into the nerves. And I'm like, oh my goodness, dude, like it was just such a, like I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But at the end of the study, you know what they said? It is inconclusive.
Yeah.
I'm like sitting there looking at this. I'm like, bro, how are you telling me this is inconclusive right now? You just basically sold it.
Don't have enough data to substantiate your claims. I wrote a paper on scorpions when I was in college. When I went to OU, and let me tell you, like we were able to like observe that scorpions are able to detect water over a distance, but we had a couple of outliers, and because of that, we had to throw out our whole study. Also, this is a meridian. That's a meridian behind me.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm gonna have to send you that study, man, because it's becoming more prominent. It's getting to the point where, at least in my eyes, that even quantum physics and science, like they're starting to almost become dead set on proving a lot of these esoteric things to be true. I mean, we're beyond the point of metaphysical speculation in my eyes. It's at a point where it's like we need to start living this. We need to start breathing this. We need to start putting it into practice. Because if we're just still sitting there doing this guesswork, like, is it real? Is it not? That was the whole reason I started Kundalini yoga, man. Because like I've been doing different types of inner alchemy for a while. What brought me, I was working with Hanuman for a couple years, and he kind of pushed me into doing it. And I remember I was watching something, and they're like, it's taboo. It's this, and this, and you know, like really trying to sell like this is. I started doing it, man. My life completely changed. And I'm sitting there too, like if everybody was doing this stuff, because the fascia release, the somatic release, if everybody was doing this, if everybody hopped on this paradigm, started testing it instead of just talking about it, because that's one of the things we see a lot of people talking about it but not testing it. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to be a test subject. Let's roll in this, let's do it. And I guarantee you, man, with the leptokinesis, with understanding the meridians, understanding the subtle body system, mental health care and physical health care as we know it would cease to be. It would disintegrate, dude. It would be done. Like there would be no, because you'd have a whole bunch of people healing themselves, man. And so I'm with you, bro. Like I got to send you that study real quick. I want to bring up this image. If you don't mind breaking it down just a little bit for everybody. Okay. My hair is getting in the way. It was that cell image that you brought up. So let me get it pulled up here real fast. Because I thought this was pretty informative, man. Like I thought this kind of shows electrical current, how we're electrical beings too. And what's even interesting too, man, I had a guy on the show a couple weeks ago who actually successfully tapped into the 0 point field too. So we're starting to understand that there's more to electricity than meets the eye. And that's what was really cool about this image that you posted earlier today. So let me pull this up real fast.
So real quick, what I feel like I do is 0 point energy. It is a form of scalar wave transmission. It's like I am generating through my conscious intent a scalar wave that is able to travel instantaneously to the receiver based on their biologically quantum coherent structures, and as a result of that we can influence what the image that you're about to pull up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. Let me grab it up real quick. It's not letting me pull up the image file. I'm just gonna head over to your page real quick and grab it. But no, because I thought it was hella informative, bro. Like I'm telling you. Like I was seeing this and I was like, man, this has to be broken down on the show, and it has to be broken down on the show for the pure reason this is what frequency and vibration do to our bodies. It heals ourselves. And you got to think when we're talking about electricity, I'm an electrician by trade. So I can definitely break this. I mean, we're dealing with a sine wave, a scalar wave, basically, as you're putting it. And there's even a lot of theories that suggest that, if we're kind of diving into the interesting side of things, we're going to go ahead and say that potentially matter could be condensed AC sine waves. A lot of people have even thought that consciousness interacts with it this way. So let me bring up this image real quick. Let me pull it up here. So yeah, man, let's break this down, because this is interesting. So we have the nucleus and the cell membrane. We got short pulses of current are used to provide critical voltages that disrupt cell membranes in a very short time. And then we have temporary pores are formed in the cell membrane, allowing the exchange of substances in and out of the cell. We've got nucleic acid. A short pulse of electrical current is applied to the cell to perforate it, allowing the nucleic acid to enter the cell. And then the cell membrane is spontaneously repaired. So this is interesting. This is interesting, man. Let's break this down. So is this kind of what we do with leptokinesis? We work with this electromagnetic.
This is essentially what I'm doing to people. So this is a form of, in particular, if I'm recollecting correctly, it is a form of electroporation is what this image is of. Electroporation is also something that is used and has a lot of science behind it for PEMF therapy, pulse electromagnetic field therapy. They use that shit for astronauts and stuff like that. Athletes, you know what I mean? It's actually a very well replicated science at this point. And so basically, when you introduce a current of either electricity, or like a millivolt, or electromagnetic energy, or a scalar wave, to a cell, it causes that that permeability to occur, for those pores to essentially kind of open up. And that's what allows for when the nucleic acid is essentially just a fancy term for building blocks. You know what I mean? If you're able to redirect those proteins, the nucleic acids, all of these different particles that are used to rebuild the cell inside of the cell, it's able to accelerate the regeneration of it. One of the things that I wanted to also bring up is that even if you don't do it from this process, one of the things I really specialize in is ionic voltage concentration gradient enhancement. That's what makes the cells have electricity and stuff like that. When you have more sodium ions on the intracellularly on the inside of your cell, and you have more potassium ions on the outside of your cell, that makes the millivolts go up on the outside of the cell. It drops that electrical that threshold and allows for that electricity to travel more and things like that. As a result of that, it also, anytime you cut your skin, anytime a cell is repairing itself, that process occurs. Where the ionic concentrations gradients change because it requires the electricity, that requires that millivolt to become more negative in order to regenerate itself. Period. And so that's one of the main things that I specialize in doing.
And that's awesome. I mean, we're getting a real crash course here, and it's real obvious that we can heal ourselves, dude. Like this, it's very within, and that's the thing too. We've been conditioned our whole lives to think our health is hyper complex. You know what I mean? And it is. It's almost like they've tried to strip us of our power in that sense when it comes to controlling our health. And this is something, I've spoken about on this show quite a bit, because we see people, they're constantly giving their power away to this corrupt medical industrial complex, and they don't have the understanding that healing yourself is actually not that difficult. It's not that complicated. And I'm starting to see, as of now, I don't know if you've seen this too, and there's almost been kind of a paradigm shift in the health and wellness world. It's starting to happen. It's happening slowly. But what I'm starting to see, and I'm wondering if you've noticed this yourself, is we're seeing so many people now just saying no to modern medicine, saying no, dude. I mean, even with COVID and the jab, okay? Like, I have a coworker. I'm not going to name names, but he wasn't awake at the time, but he felt pressured into getting the jab. And I was sitting there talking with it. He goes, dude, I don't trust doctors anymore at all. They fucking lied right to my fucking face. And he goes, and he says, every time I go to the doctor, I just go for a checkup. I go for a physical, things like that. He tries to give me something, or he tries to write me a script. I look at him, I say, no, thanks. I'm going to find something natural, or I'm going to find a different way to take care of myself at this point. So have you been starting to see this shift in mentality, the shift in consciousness, in your perspective? Because I think it's starting. It seems like it's starting off slowly, but it is. It seems like there's been almost like this hit, like something happened just within the past year. We see more people looking at different alternative health options. We see more people gravitating towards a better way of being, a better state of mental health, a better state of physical health. So, has this impacted you in what you do at all? Have you seen more people start to come to you for this healing that you might have never expected to see somebody like this walking in because of this shift in consciousness that's occurring?
Absolutely. I've been in the game for a little while, doing this professionally, since 2012. And so I remember back then people were starting to be one of my main ads I would put out would be doctor can't figure it out or something like that. You know what I mean? And I got a lot of patients doing that, because people were already getting tired back then. Then you have the COVID shit happen, and that radicalized a lot of people. A lot of people. And so even I've seen it accelerate every year since I've been in here. And it's only getting faster and faster and faster and faster as the trust for the mainstream doctors and scientists is just at an all-time low, just completely deteriorating. You know what I mean? Because they did lie. And it's a business. And I had a cancer patient one time, and I was this lady couldn't walk, bro. She couldn't walk. Mm-hmm. I did one session on her and she was able to walk again. I'm not even exaggerating. Dude. Not even exaggerating. And I was back in the day, I used to do a lot of in-person stuff. I just got that job at the clinics. Now I'm starting to do in-person stuff again. But since 2016, I worked all primarily remotely. You know what I mean? Back then I was doing house calls. I'd be on call. People would call me. They're in the hospital. I'd go meet them at the hospital and stuff like that. And that cancer patient had me meet her at the hospital, and I'm working on her in the hospital. And the doctor like is like reading over her labs and stuff like that, and he's just like, "You need to count your bucket list," type of thing. Like didn't mention any change in diet, lifestyle choices, anything. Just basically said you're dead, pretty much. You know,
dude.
And they ended up living a fairly long amount of time after that too.
I want to pick your brain on this, man, because this is, to me, because you just brought it up, and you brought it up unintentionally, and this is something I've talked about this show. You talk about medical hexing, and yep, here we go. I saw the look. He's like, I already know where he's going with this, but no, this is so I've talked about on this show before. The placebo and the nocebo effects, because in my dude, it's some of the hardest evidence there is. It's some of the hardest evidence there is that we have the capability to either heal ourselves or harm ourselves, depending on our perspective of what's going on. And there's so much scientific literature on it, and it's so funny because even in the literature, they're like, yes, it's the thing. Yes, it happens quite frequently, but we don't know what causes it. It's an unknown psychological mechanism that's causing this. But what you just brought up, medical hexing, because that's what this medical industrial complex does. And I think in my eyes, it could be unintentional. It could be intentional. We got so many things that are trying to take our energy, take us off the face of this earth. A lot of us awakened ones. And I'm even going to go on a limb and say this, and you'll probably agree with what I got to say. I do think that this healthcare is trying to nix people like us off the face of the planet. This healthcare system, and of course, I would never not advise anybody to get emergency medical treatment if you need it. If you're about to die, or you got shot, or you got your arm cut off, then yeah, definitely.
That's what it's good for, in my opinion.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
It's emergency medicine where it's like physical trauma, like you're broken a bone and stuff like that. That's what I think that like we do somewhat excel at to a degree. Obviously, I still do think it's archaic. It could probably be, we probably have like frequency technologies that we could use that would completely just like reset the bone itself, regrow the tissue, all that kind of stuff, you know?
Dude. No, go. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
I was just going to say, it's certainly a thing, like the medical hexing. I think a lot of it is more unintentional. Like, I think the system to itself, to a degree, for the lack of a better term, like, is demonic. Like, I think they do a lot of child sacrifice. I think they do a lot of other sacrifice. There's a lot of organ trafficking. There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on in that whole industry. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely, man. I'll have to send you this video. So, like, I had somebody on the show, because that's been something I've been doing for a while, is trying to expose the corruption in the healthcare system. So I had somebody on the show. Her name's Joey, and her son. So her son, I'm actually going to put you through to her if you don't mind. There's a couple of people when we get off this show, that I'm going to refer you to that actually need some help right now.
Awesome.
But
awesome, yeah.
her son actually, so he got a very rare kind of brain cancer. Is at the base where his spinal cord meets his skull.
Heavy.
He's a young kid, but he's been in remission now for almost a year. These doctors are still forcing him to do chemo, holding leverage over Joey, like basically threatening her. Like, if you try to stop this, we'll make the chemo doses harder. They verbatim said this. But one of the craziest things, because you said it was demonic. So she sent me this video of them walking her son to the chemo ward, the radiation ward. And dude, this hospital, it's in Pennsylvania. I'm not going to name the name just yet. It's got all of this Egyptian and occult symbolism throughout the lower hall, where they got to go walk to do chemo and radiation, and there's security that escorts them down there. I'm telling you, dude, you're absolutely right. It definitely is demonic, and that's a case example of it. But this is the other thing I want to talk about as well, because we see this, and in your eyes, based on the way things are going at this point in time, do you think potentially in our lifetimes we are going to see this shift away from this medical system completely? And I honestly think so. I want to pick your brain on it, because you've worked with a lot of people, and you've gotten the opinions of a lot of people, I'm sure. I mean, do you think in this lifetime we are going to break away and we're going to see some kind of reformation of healthcare and wellness, and it's going to shift into what it needs to be, into its natural state?
It's already happening. Again, it's already within our lifetime.
Absolutely.
Maybe our lifetime, definitely our kids. I mean, again, I just got a job. I had my first day today working at a wellness clinic. I mean, working with a team, acupuncturist, a stretchologist, a massage therapist. You know what I'm saying? A person that does personal like fitness and stuff like that. Person that's a yoga trainer. It's like a whole floor of just us. You know, and that to me is the future of medicine. You know, and it's a dream that I've always had. In fact, like one of my end goals is to have like wellness facilities like all throughout the entire world. I mean, bro, like I sat in my office today for like an hour with a red light on. Like, well, I forget what those red lights are called, like the therapeutic red lights. I just sat on that motherfucker for like an hour. I'm like,
dude, I would be doing the same thing, man.
The medicine that I have access to for me personally right now, I'm like mind blown. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. But yeah, we're definitely heading that way. I mean, with any institution that collapses, with any structure that collapses, usually there's a fight. You know what I mean? Like usually, I don't want to say that there will be violence, but you know what I mean? Like there will be resistances, like there will be pushbacks, there will be, you know what I mean? Weird shit like that will, like, they're going to be fighting for it. And then this is what'll probably actually happen. I would like to be idealistic, but I'm very real about a lot of shit. And I think that what'll end up happening is they will somehow get their grubby mitts into the alternative space and figure out a way to maximize profit in that way. But hopefully it'll be like a little bit more harmonic. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm, my thing is like, dude, you like, wellness it should be $1 trillion industry. It's just like pharmaceuticals in the sense that like this process never stops. Like if you do something naturally, it requires dedication, sacrifice, discipline, consistency more than anything. We're not just taking a pill like this. We're rewiring the brain and the body, and you know what I'm saying, and trying to create these different pathways. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of work.
Dude, definitely, man. All right, I gotta ask you this because this is just something I am very curious about. Have you ever experimented with entheogens and leptokinesis? As in, have you ever done leptokinesis on somebody who was using an entheogen, or have you yourself ever used an entheogen and attempted leptokinesis? I'm just curious if it would amplify the effect. And I mean, what are your thoughts on that as well?
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought that was something else. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, how do I put this? It can certainly, like any chemical period introduced into the body, you know, will create different effects and stuff like that. Yeah, I've done all different types of psychedelics, you know what I mean, and myself and the patient as well. Even unhealthier ones, like some people have come see me when they're drunk, or even on some other shit, you know what I'm saying? And what I'll say is that it can certainly enhance the session, you know, like an entheogen. And that's just because an entheogen naturally is going to create a higher level of coherence and cohesion between the hemispheres of the brain. It's going to create more connectivity between all the pathways in the brain. And that's essentially what I'm already doing. So, you know, it's kind of like a little, I don't want to say on steroids, but it's like, it's amplifying the process. Absolutely. My thing is that like, I'm such a psychic snob and like such a psychic purist that I'm like, no crystals, no subs, like don't bring anything, just your mind and your body. We ain't even listening to a song. Because I want
silence.
Seriously, because I want my analysis to be to reduce as much bias as I can.
I totally understand. No, and that's why I asked that. I was just curious because I in a lot of ways, you know, even though I do like to imbibe on psychedelics still occasionally, don't get me wrong. In a lot of ways, like, you know, when I'm doing my energy work, dude, I'm sober 100%. I'm a purist in that too, because ultimately, you know, even though the plants can help and they do attribute and they can enhance it, ultimately we need to learn to do this ourselves. You know, we need to learn how to gain this balance ourselves. We need to learn how to balance the hemispheres of our brain on our own. You know, it's almost like a reliance. And even though I'm a big advocate for psychedelic medicine, I agree with you, dude. I'm a purist in that sense also, because ultimately, at least in my eyes, you're getting the full raw effect when you're of that clear mind, and you're in that sober centered space. So I just had to ask, dude, because I you know, we look at how psychedelics enhance a lot of things for us, and I was just curious if that you have ever done work on somebody who was on psychedelics, or you yourself.
Absolutely.
But I like it, dude.
I have.
You're a pure,
I have. And I've seen.
How
it
did
do
that
stuff.
go? Let's get into that, and then I got a couple questions from the audience.
Sure. I mean, it went. I don't want to say, because it's almost like I don't. As a practitioner, I try to do my best to not have any expectations. But at this point, I'm so spoiled, and like my skill set is so developed that like I almost expect it to happen almost every time. But in terms of like the psychedelic part, what I'll say that it was a lot more obviously visual. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot more like visual. I forget that part of the optic part of the brain is like much more enhanced. You know, there have been times even when I just took some psychedelics by myself, and I was like 15 or 16, like I didn't even know what a somatic release was, and my body just started doing this stuff where it felt like I was trying to like stretch, like and I couldn't reach, like I couldn't fulfill the stretch, and my body did it for like 2 hours, and I didn't know what it was until like many years later, you know.
I know exactly what you mean. I call it the mushroom dance, man. Like you'll like sit there and like you'll be on some mushrooms or something like that. You'll just be like, ugh, and then you'll just be like, it'll be like your body, like almost like, the best way I can describe it is it's like contortion, but it's not. You know what I mean? And it is. It's like you feel like you're like twisting a little bit. It is. It's that somatic release that's occurring, dude. You hit it, because I've had people ask me that before, and I've said the same thing. They're like, that's your fascia, dude, just releasing. Like, you know, you're having like this like almost pivotal moment where it's like you feel almost like you're in a state of rigor mortis, but then it's that tension and that release. You undergo that tension in order to get it ready, and then there's that release. So, and I mean, and that's why, like when you were talking about, you know, tension being an energetic blockage earlier, I mean, that's just playing the field right there. You could see the blockage being addressed, and then you see it releasing. So awesome, dude. So first question from Kyle. Sorry, I just got to your question, Kyle. Does he have formal training in kinesiology?
Nope.
Okay. No worries, man. No worries. So no form. And then actually from Michelle here, we have actually a question for this. So we have any suggestions on how to get off Suboxone? Been in recovery longer than I was addicted to heroin for.
That's a tough question. You know, it's just like anything at the end of the day is like weaning yourself off of it, obviously. But I was a former addict. I was a child addict. You know what I mean? And I have a very addictive personality, as you can see. You know, like, so it's like you have to find something else to become addicted to. Like I one day cold turkey quit drinking alcohol, quit smoking cigarettes, and in doing that, I just it's like I flipped my addiction into doing yoga, into hiking, into just like all of these things that were good for me, that were giving me like good dopamine, good serotonin, instead of that quick, you know what I'm saying, release. There's no easy way about it. It's really something that has to come from within you. You know what I mean? That's really the only way. You know, it's an internal thing, 100%.
I would completely agree, man, because, you know, I was a child addict. I got addicted to heroin at the age of 17.
Wow.
You know how DC and Baltimore is. I don't got to explain it. You already know. But dude, that's what, so I ended up doing some time because of the addiction. I found fitness in there. I found raw law of one in there. That was like the premise to my awakening. I found, because I mean, they had church in there and stuff, but again, and that's basically what I did, is like it's swapping the bad addiction for the healthy addiction. You know what I mean? The healthy addiction is going to catalyze you. It's going to give you growth. You know, I mean, a lot of people like to give like gym rats and martial artists shit, but look at them. Like, you know, it's like they're like, oh, you're always at the gym, you're always working out, you're always training. But like, dude, look at what it does to you. Look what it does to your whole being. Look what it does to your mind, your confidence, like your self-worth. Like you step into your power. You understand that the power you actually behold. So I'm with you, dude. I completely agree. I quit drinking cold turkey too. At 30 years old, man. It was kind of interesting because dude, my family's full of functioning alcoholics. My family's full of them, dude. And
we got a similar story. Creepy.
Dude, I'm telling you, bro. It's awesome though, because like I said, I'm hearing a lot of you and me. And like, but dude, when I was 30, you know, like I was never a big drinker. And actually a DMT experience had a lot to do with that, because let me tell you something about DMT. If you go over there under the influence of alcohol or any kind of hard drugs, you're gonna get a spiritual ass whooping, bro. Like that's the best way. You're gonna get a spirit. The spirits over there, they're okay. Like if you're already on another psychedelic and you smoke DMT, they're okay with cannabis, but they'll give you shit if you abuse it. But if you go over there, that's what happened, man. Like, cause I make DMT and I had made a batch, and it was like I had drinks earlier in the day, and I thought I had sobered up, so I thought it was okay. But boy, was I wrong, dude. I got thrown up and down the multiverse, bro. Like I said, I would have preferred a real ass whooping as opposed to that, dude. Because at least I knew what was happening to me in the real ass whooping. I could sit there and go, oh, I'm getting my ass beat. But it's like at this, I'm like, shit, I'm getting thrown through a portal. I'm getting slammed into the ground. I'm getting picked back up and thrown through another portal. I'm getting yelled at. And the whole craziest thing about the experience, dude, is like, and this is why I say DMT is otherworldly. I started it on my couch, and when the experience was done, I ended up halfway across my house in my kitchen, like something dropped me off there. It was like, don't you ever fucking come back here like that again. And I was like, I'm telling you, man. So, oh yeah.
I had some kind of a similar experience. Like there was a point where I ended up having a lot of DMT, and
gotcha.
I was just doing it a lot, and it got to a point like I remember like peering through a portal and like seeing it looked like a boardroom, like it looked like a business meeting room, but like they look like ancient Egyptians, like they all have like the animal heads on and stuff like that. And like one of them, it wasn't like that aggressive, but like one of them like just like pushed me out of the portal. So it's just interesting. Also, real quick, I didn't mean to give such a short answer for the kinesiology response. It's just not something I have worked with formally. I have worked with it informally though. So
okay. No, you're all good, man. You're all good, man. So I got to bring this up because, and this is just something I want to bring up at the back end because we're getting towards the 90-minute mark. Is I saw you, and that's why I put in that when I first advertised the show that Jeff Nipper sucks.
I knew you were going.
I gotta bring, but yeah, I saw your comment, man, about the lab grown meat, and I just had to laugh because like I'm seeing so many people come out in support of this, man. Even like they're like I even think freaking Dr. Mike came out on Dr. Mike Israel came out in support of it too, man. But it's cancer cells, dude. Did you know that they're growing this shit out of cancer cells?
I didn't know it was cancer cells, and I didn't even need to like it, dude. Like it's an abomination. Like it's just not good. Like I mean, like I don't even know what to say about it, bro. I'm like, how do people think that something so unnatural is going to be good for them? You know what I'm saying? Like nothing good can come from that. You know, we need to it's always as close as you can get to nature, the better it's going to be for you. The further you start to stray away from that, the more, again, I don't want to throw this term around so loosely, but like, dude, it's borderline demonic. Like it's like these are like fallen, like this is like fallen technologies that are like being a lot of them right now that I feel like are being introduced into society. It's like they just gave us like a new care package. They were like, release this on the humans type of thing, you know, like.
It is, man. And dude, some people like, you know, so this is one of the things too. I want to get your opinion on this as well. Some people think that this country we live in is a giant experiment. And we're going deep into a little bit of a deep rabbit hole here, but dude, because you look at it like, and I was actually talking with somebody about this today, because like, don't get me wrong, like I was never a McDonald's fan, but the one thing I always liked from there was the Egg McMuffins. I thought they were good. But then you go ahead and you compare our Egg McMuffin here to the Egg McMuffins like overseas and like Europe and stuff. You got an Egg McMuffin that's got like 6 ingredients in the UK, but then you come over here and it's like 40, bro. And it's like, and I even had this thing. So you know, we make sourdough in this house. And
Nice.
I remember that we got this. We were doing Hello Fresh for a little bit when it was around, and it wasn't too bad. But we got this roll, and you know, I know how bread's made, man. There's 6 ingredients tops in a home baked bread. I'm looking at this roll, man. It's got like 32 ingredients. And I'm looking at this roll, and I like literally opened up my garbage can and I tossed it in the garbage can, and then I opened my bread box and I pulled out the slice of bread from there. But do you think we're being like, this is an experiment? I definitely feel we're being experimented on with certain things. But some people are even going and saying that this whole country and everything that's going on is some kind of wicked experiment. And we're either through revelation of the method or karmic retribution allowing this experiment to occur, or this is completely unknowing error and people are just buying into it through their subconscious free will. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, going down the rabbit hole, you know, they even talk about how, you know, America was created to be destroyed eventually. You know what I mean? Like, it's all occult based stuff. And I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, clearly we're being experimented on. Clearly, I mean,
yeah.
And I wouldn't even just say just experimented on. There's a lot of things that are also just like financially tied into a lot of this stuff. Like, one of the reasons, like, you see this in a lot of like hair products and stuff like that. Like a lot of like just body products. A lot of corporations were having issues with industrialized waste. And, you know, it's very expensive to get rid of that kind of stuff. So they started figuring out ways to like put it in the foods, put it in the hair products, put it in like all of our products. And that's another thing. But yeah, I would also even go further to say that, like, there's a country right now in the Middle East that gets experimented on even more than we do. And all those technologies, all that AI shit that they're using out there, all the drone stuff they're using out there, all of these different types of like security systems, all this different type of like stuff that they are brutalizing one group of people with. They are bringing that stuff right on over here too, to use on us. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Palantir kill list just got upgraded. My bad.
dude, they're even, and this is the thing too, man. I'll tell you, some people thought I was a psycho because the endocrine disruptors that are in quite literally everything, man. Like my body in a lot of ways, which I'm thankful for because of my spiritual evolution, like my body throws up an allergic reaction to that shit. Like we were going out. I was in a pinch. I was looking for some kind of like something just to throw on to smell good. And I had some like old freaking Old Spice can, man, of the spray. So I like just put a little tiny spritz on. I'm like, whatever. And you know, this was a little bit ago. And like, dude, I'm out, dude. And I'm breaking out in hives. Like I'm straight up breaking out in hives from this shit. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, like what's going on? Like, did I like, what the fuck is going on? And then I started to like put 2 and 2 together because I get very inquisitive when shit happens to me. The first thing I go is, okay, what did I do different that I don't normally do? That's always the first thought that pops into my head because I don't freak out like a lot of people. I'm like, okay, why is this happening? What did I do? And then I went back into my head and I thought, I was like, okay, I used that fragrance products, dude. They're in the lubricating strips on our razors, bro. I ripped all of the lubricating strips off my fucking razors, bro. Like I'm telling you, our testosterone as men is under attack too. And you know, that's because people like you and I, man, we're dangerous. We are. We're dangerous in that aspect. People in our age group, and that's what they want to do is they want to, you know, to not only dumb us down, but to take our testosterone away from us, man, and turn us into these. I mean, we see the current state of men, right now, right now, and I have a lot of things to say about it, but we ain't gonna go into it here, I'm sure. But no, man, it is. But dude, and that's one of the things, man. People don't realize. You know how much we are under attack, man. I'm glad to have you here talking with me about this because you see it too. It is, man. It's like from every angle, you know.
One
and
thing
like,
I wanted to tell you real quick, while it's in here, you're talking about endocrine disruption, right? Anything that again disrupts your electrochemical signaling system, disrupts your connection to God. You know what I mean? Your subconscious, your nervous system, your endocrine system, these things are all bridges to the divine. They also all have a direct correlation with an extrasensory perception. One of the things that I'll tell you this, one of the most fascinating things that I have found in my work is the higher self stuff that will manifest, where people will suddenly start doing these like crazy mudras and like these crazy movements, speak light language, like speak different languages that do not sound like they come from Earth. You know what I mean? Even speak in English too, and like deliver like messages like to weird stuff, right? This autonomous thing starts to take over that looks like a dance. It looks like a smooth rhythm. And sometimes at first it will be choppy, like it will be rough, like it will look almost robotic. And what I have found is that fuck any energy process. It's always been, anytime I started cleaning up how their glands, how their brain, how all those things are communicating with one another, every single time it would enhance the connection, the signal. You know what I'm saying? Like it would optimize that higher self behavior that was coming through. Always a physical thing. And even sometimes just detoxification did that. And if you look at every ancient culture, every like mystery school, every initiation process, a huge part of the initiation is physical detoxification. Yeah, you're fine.
Absolutely. No. The dogs are barking. I didn't want them cutting you off. Yeah, but no, absolutely, dude. And it is. I mean, when you clear out your system like that, and that was one of the first things I noticed because I remember I started when I got out of being locked up when I was 20 is when I truly started that my health and fitness journey, and that of course led me down, you know, to where I am today. Because you know one of the biggest things that opened a huge door for me, and I was thinking like, you know, why is all of the food that we're supposed to be eating that's good for us hella expensive and really hard for people to afford? But why is all the shit food that we're not supposed to be eating really cheap? And then that's what, and dude, I'm telling you, within a year, my channel was open from cleaning out my entire body. And what you're saying is true, dude. I mean, what you're saying is absolute fact, that everything comes from an electromagnetic biofield. It is like an extrasensory perception. And that's why in Kundalini yoga, I don't know if you know this, but the big toe, like if you ever, so like, and I got a comment in here too. Let me pull this up real quick. So she said that, hold on, where is it at? Okay. We have a third of the hormone levels that our grandparents had at our same age. Mm-hmm. You can get them back though, Michelle. You can. And what Doyen's talking about here is definitely a way to get those back and to restabilize your hormones, because if you clean your body and you detoxify, that's going to establish that. Also, to sit down and hold on to your big toes for like 5 minutes. Just take your fingers, like your two fingers, and pinch your big toes, because I'm sure you know this too, Doyen, that's where our pituitary, our pineal, our hypothalamus, everything that works with hormones, those meridian points are in our toes. Mm-hmm. So by sitting there and holding your toes, your big toes, honestly, with your fingers for like 5 minutes a day, you're hitting those meridian points and you're having your body recalibrate that system, man. So no, definitely, man. Well, shit, dude. I had such a good time talking to you. I want to go into so much more shit, but yeah, I know you got your thing in the morning, man. Yeah, no, dude. We were like, and honestly, I want to get you and Nick on a show together too sometime in the future, man. And
love Nick.
Nick's a homie, dude. He's hilarious.
Yeah, love Nick.
I've never heard somebody say what in the cinnamon toast fuck. But dude, I'm gonna tell you what. That's why, dude. He's got a great sense of humor, man. But nonetheless, man, I want to thank you so much for taking time out your busy life. I know you got your new job. I know you got stuff going on. I want to congratulate you on that, man, for actually living your passion, working your passion, healing people. It's not something a lot of people get to do, but it's because they believe they can't, and they need to believe that they can, because ultimately that's what's stopping them, is the belief that they can. So I want to congratulate you on the new position, dude, at the Wellness Center. Awesome work, bro. You I don't even think it's work to you. I'm gonna be honest. I think you probably roll in there like it's just another day, dude.
Charge that shit to the game, baby. It's passion, man. It's love. You know, I wouldn't want to do anything else, you know.
I completely understand, man. Well, all right. If you can hang out just for a couple minutes after the show is up, guys. Again, I have Doyen's links, his link tree for Leptokinetic, in both the Rumble and the YouTube description. If you are interested in his services and you want to hit him up, or you want to get his book, or you want to read up a little bit on what he's doing, the link is there both in the Rumble and the YouTube description. And I also want to give another shout out to Divine Creation Gifts. That link is also in the Rumble and the YouTube description. If you want to up your crystal collection or check out some natural remedies and creams, and get some supplies for your craft as well. But Doyen, since I have your link tree, I know that's got your X. Is there anywhere else anybody can find you, and anything else that you're currently working on right now?
I'm on YouTube at it should be Leptokinetic. Either way, like my link tree has like pretty much all my major links on all my social medias and stuff like that. I am working on a new project right now. I'm working on trying to, because after doing this for so long, I've noticed kind of these universal somatic behaviors that manifest, and I've kind of like categorized them into roughly like 8 different levels. And so like I'm trying to go like a lot more deeper on them, a lot more specific. Like, you know, if someone all of a sudden goes takes a nice deep breath from while I'm sending energy to them, that could like indicate that like their brainstem, like the medulla oblongata, is incoherent, like little things like that. I'm trying to like really just like map out all of these like little just like reflexes and stuff like that. And so that's kind of like my newest project, so be on the lookout for that. I do also remember, like I was saying in the beginning, I make free YouTube videos as well, you know, that you can check out. I usually put, you know, 1 or 2 out a month, something like that, you know, so that's always going on too. But yeah, that's what I kind of got for y'all. And again, I appreciate you having me on here, bro. Your audience was awesome. You know, I really appreciate y'all. So thank you.
Hey, man. I knew you'd feel right at home, dude. So other than that, guys, you'll be hanging out for a sec, Doyen, but thanks for joining us for another BG-Cast Wednesday live podcast. I will be back next week. The Brothers Blue are making their return, and we are going to be chatting about a few things. They've actually, I'm going to give some props to Kyle. He's been doing some research on metacognition and looking into panpsychism and all of that. So we're going to touch base on where we left off in the conversation before, potentially see if they've shifted their perspectives on a few things. I've definitely shifted my perspective on a few things too. So be looking forward to Kyle and Cody of the Brothers Blue coming back on the show next week. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an honor, Doyen. And guys, you remember what we say here: stay safe, stay free, have that personal agency and that personal sovereignty, and stay away from the Japanese sex robots, for the love of fucking God. Have a good night, everybody. Take care. Have a good.
Collectively together, you were born to rotate with the crowd. You were born to sync with the sacred spiral. The Hercules stream is proof. The cosmos hammers the divergent. BG-Cast brings us that Hercules energy. It's here to save the day. You won't stay lost in the dark. Here is your shot with BG kept beside you. Can we rise alone?